Today's video is kindly sponsored by the legends over at War Thunder. On the 29th of July last year, the Xbox 360 marketplace was shut down nearly 19 years after it initially released. It was the end of an era that had a massive impact on mine and millions of other childhoods. Since that happened, I've been collecting a list of childhood classics. Games that you guys have told me took up hundreds of hours of your time when you were younger, but nowadays don't get spoken about. Today, we try 3 of the most requested classics, including the best Xbox 360 indie game of all time, to meet the people that still play them. For the past year, every few months someone would send me a message asking about this super old FPS. But the more I looked into it, the more I uncovered about how much more Sauerbraten is than just any old FPS. The project began as an improved version of the original Cube engine, and at one point was planned to be an RPG game called Eisenstern. Eisenstern was eventually scrapped in favour of an FPS game called Sauerbraten. The early 2000s was Sauer's infant years, where the competitive scene was picking up speed and players like Notas were discovering the game. Notas is a competitive Sauerbraten player, and he told me it was a huge part of his life for over 18 years, starting in 2007 when he was just 14. Like a lot of the older guys, he's more inactive nowadays, but the competitive scene for Sauer is still going, and every few years, newer players come through, like Manu. After I posted in the Sauerbraten Discord, Manu reached out to me offering his perspective on the game's history. He started in 2012, focusing on editing maps in the game, but today he plays more competitively. Hello.
Yo.
Well, how on earth and when did you discover Sauerbraten?
Yeah, it was quite random. Back then in elementary school in 2011, I spent time gaming with a friend, and they always showed me like computer games that they found. First it was Need for Speed World, and I played it, and then he showed me Cube 2 Sauerbraten. He said like, yo, come to my house. I got this new game from this CD-ROM in the newspaper. We gotta play it, it's so cool, you can build basically Minecraft. I was like, yo, that's cool. And then I went to his place and we started playing a bit on his old crappy laptop. At some point I got a laptop myself for my 12th birthday. After setting up everything, I instantly installed Cube 2 Sauerbraten and started playing multiplayer.
When I logged onto Sauer for the first time, over 20 years on from its release, there was just one lobby with players, but that lobby was full. Holy shit, look how many people are in this lobby. That is like over 20. This is peak time, but over 20? That's incredible. The community of Sauer was never huge, but Manu told me that 2013 was considered Sauer's prime in terms of activity, with editing servers running all the time and the server list full of diverse game modes that you wouldn't really see as often today. When he first started playing, Manu was a huge part of the editing community of Sauer. He and other players would load up a blank map and create whatever came to mind using the built-in map editor. I found out pretty quickly just how capable Sauer's map editing was when Manu first showed me the very basics. In a way, it's similar to Minecraft and Infiniminer, except Sauer came first. Every build in Sauer is made up of cubes of all different orientations and sizes, and with that, you can do things like create the illusion of curvature. Over time, people discovered more and more techniques to manipulate builds, like creating a one-sided wall, but when Manu first started playing, this knowledge was hard to get your hands on. Manu was kind enough to show me a bunch of his old childhood Sauer maps that he had saved from around 2012, when he was just 11 years old and getting to grips with the absolute basics of map editing.
This is basically 14 years old in my memory. It's a recreation of the original map. It was a public server, and somebody else was building this kind of ramp with those guardrails, and that's everything I can remember. I don't remember who it was who built this. I don't know if there was anything else. It's just a single memory. A friend or somebody I met was building like a castle, and I already knew him for some days, so we were kind of friends already. And they were like always good at building and editing, so they made this whole landscape with the terrain, and I had no clue how to make it, so it was like, yeah, there's a flat spot at the beach, can I build a house there? And I was like, yeah, sure, go for it. I put a lot of effort in here. See, you have some couches and some stock beds here, or like bunk beds, even a TV. I don't know who built this, I'm not sure. It's some random, I don't remember the name, sadly. There have been quite many, some came, some left, and I'm not certain who built this.
There could be someone who watches the video who things. Oh shit, wait, I built that.
Yeah, that'd be crazy if they remember. But yeah, it's one person, one stranger you quickly became friends with, and then ways go apart, and you never see them again. But they're still part of your memory, your childhood, so you kind of acknowledge them without knowing their name. And I think a friend built like most of the models here. I built the spider because it looks like my style back then. And I also added the creeper. So basically you have mom and dad creeper. But I was like, nah, they're married now, they need a child, because that's how ways go. So I built a small baby creeper who's like super smiley.
A lot of the people Manu edited with, he can't even remember the names of, and these worlds are the only thing he has to remember them by. But there was one guy that he still looks for today in hopes of finding him again. Who was the guy who mentored you? Was that Neo?
Neo, yeah. He became my mentor. He had some more experience and still learned. Also did some scripting. So I chatted with him, helped him out, testing scripts and like building with him and learning. We had like sessions where like came online and we were like, yo, wanna learn more? Wanna advance to the next level? I was like, yeah, let's go. And then he showed me something, and I would get frustrated at stuff because I didn't know how to do them, and he was patient with me.
Has he seen how good you are now?
I don't think so, not really. They left in like 2014, end of 2014. I never knew where they were. They came back in like 2015, maybe once or twice, and then left again, and I never knew where they are. And I was like always on the search for Neo, asking our servers, hey, do you know Neo? Have you heard anything about them? Answers were always like, nah, haven't heard anything.
Oh, that's so sad.
It kind of was, and I was like always hoping maybe one day if I just edit sometime he will come back or he will be on public, and it never really happened.
Neo taught Manu a lot of what he knows about map editing today, and when Manu showed me his later race maps from around 2015 and a car he attempted to create just a couple years ago, you could see how far he's come. After his childhood maps, Manu loaded up a special level that every Zawa player would recognize. Cooper's Church.
Basically, Cooper was just an editing guy, but he was kind of advanced and he really put effort into maps. And he decided one day to include all his detailed work into one big map and create his biggest map yet, which is super nice.
Even the windows are just insane. So well detailed everywhere.
Yeah, we are at the top of the tower now, and you got this. It's crazy. Church.
Oh, it doesn't get old.
As I said, he was basically the editing guy back then. He was crazy skilled. He was the best guy at editing, showing every cool trick and doing stuff that was thought to be impossible, but he somehow made it possible.
Do you know what happened to him? Does he still play at all?
He doesn't play actively anymore. He moved on in life, but he stayed in that kind of editing or like creating geometry scene. He's basically freelancing for with Blender now, creating like models and stuff.
In 2013, when this church was created, Cooper was widely known as one of Zawa's best editors. People had made highly detailed concept maps before, but this one was fully finished. Nothing really came close. It's like, honestly, even this transcends games. Like, this would be top 5 things I've ever seen built by a player. It's just...
Oh, that's dope to hear. That's cool.
It's so cool.
If I show Sauerbraten to friends and what it's capable of, this is basically the map to show off.
Yeah, 100%. This is Cooper's bike showroom concept map from late 2012. Maps like this, as well as the perfectly round balls imported with scripts, show just how versatile Zawa can be in terms of map editing. There was also this shoe. That was pretty nice. But one of my favourites was a community map art level, estimated to be over 15 years old, featuring a bunch of Zawa's oldest players and a signboard that showed exactly who contributed. Obviously, Zawa is in its own realm. The graphics are outdated, and getting into map editing is pretty difficult. But the creativity these players were showing with the tools they had was fucking awesome to see.
I have no clue where this... Maybe it's a reference for something, but it could easily be that they're just like, yeah, I just want to build legs on a car. And they just model it in Sauerbraten.
And I can't think of obviously you can go to Blender, but Blender, this is like a sociable MMO Blender. In a way.
Yeah, kind of true, yeah.
It's so unique.
There's so much stuff you can do, but as I said, somebody has to show you.
I mean, you had Neo, right? Not every new player nowadays is going to have a Neo. They're kind of on their own for the most part.
Exactly.
Most of the players that made these builds no longer play, and found their own path in life separate to Zawa. But a bunch also likely used the skills they learned from Zawa to their advantage in the real world, like Cooper, who went on to do freelance modeling in Blender. Nowadays, the editing community is all but dead for the most part. You rarely see co-op maps of people just creating whatever comes to mind, and a lot of the well-known names have either moved on or are rarely seen. The Rugby ICTF server is where most people hang out. I spent the past week before Meadow and I called just getting to grips with the game, and at least 10 hours were spent on there getting heavily addicted to the mechanics. After over 2 decades of history and players coming and going, the Zawa World Discord server still hosts weekly tournaments to this day, but the overall community is nowhere near as big as it once was. How have things changed in the Sauerbraten community since you first started playing almost over a decade ago?
Players and the whole community got more closer together. Back then in the day, you had many players, many new people from other games, and it was like a big mess. The old players mainly remained, and they know that they all share the story, what the game has been through. It's more tightly knitted. Everybody almost gets along with each other, which is super cool. We all share the same experience with the game, the same memories, and we respect that from each other. Play competitively, try to measure our skills against each other, playing tourneys, and being cocky, of course, but that's just part of the game. Trying to enjoy the remaining community of what is still there.
Yeah.
And celebrating it. And one last thing I want to say, you all need to play FFA, best mode.
Each day I played Zawa over the past month, I'd hop in a server and see familiar names all over the place, and some fellas I felt literally never got off the game. But that's how tight-knit this community is. In 2020 during COVID, the community managed to push an update out which introduced a massive backlog of old maps and models. This was the first update in years, and it brought back hundreds of older players that had forgotten the game even existed. But eventually this fizzled out and normality resumed. Manu and a bunch of other Sauerbraten community members that reached out for the video were so kind and really welcoming towards me. So I asked if I could help fund 2 tournaments, one for fragging and one for map editing. Personally, with the help of today's sponsor, I'll be donating $500 to the prize pool, and any super chats this video gets will also go directly towards the prize pool. If you're interested in taking part or just watching the tournament, you can find out more in the Zawa World Discord. If you'd just like to explore Sauerbraten for yourself, then I'd highly recommend trying the custom map server called Zawa Custom Maps. It's a community project with the goal of preserving and showcasing old Sauerbraten maps that don't usually get the light of day. Manu and I spent a couple hours hanging out here, and occasionally we'd get some of the coolest looking maps that were either unfinished or never quite made it into the game. Sauerbraten has some of the most fascinating history I've ever come across, and some absolute legends in the community, which is a big reason it's still around today. Over the past couple years, I've donated over $1,000 in server infrastructure and tournament prize pools to smaller games, and sponsors help make that possible. So I owe a big thanks to today's sponsor, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat experience ever, available for free on PC, consoles, and now mobile devices. Thanks to the new mobile version, you can enjoy the glory of War Thunder with impressive graphics and intuitive controls, all on both iOS and Android. Command over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from 10 major nations, featuring everything from 1920s biplanes and armored cars to the cutting-edge fighter jets and modern main battle tanks of today. My favorite feature of War Thunder is by far the X-ray. When a vehicle is destroyed, whether yours or the enemy's, you see the precise impact location from wherever the shell came from, what was damaged, and the chain of events that led to the vehicle's destruction. Get yourself stuck into the immersive world of War Thunder. Become part of a global community of over 70 million War Thunder players today, and experience all the high quality content this incredible game has to offer. If you're a fan of military history, you'll love War Thunder. Download it today for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile using my links in the pinned comment or video description. New and returning players on PC and console that haven't played for at least 6 months can also get a massive limited time bonus pack. including multiple premium vehicles, an exclusive vehicle decorator, and much more. Battlefield Vietnam was a huge turning point in the Battlefield community when it was first announced in 2004. The community that had been built around Battlefield 1942 was loyal, and Vietnam was an upgrade in a lot of ways, but also quite an experiment. It would go on to be quite influential in terms of future Battlefield games, and at the time contributed to almost 25% of all Battlefield sales. Just 2 years after its release, Battlefield 2 would come out, causing Vietnam to be widely forgotten, and I had no idea it even existed until a couple months ago. A bunch of you had suggested Battlefield Vietnam to me, and told me about the last active Vietnam community that's still alive today, called Hello Clan. They've created an entire website dedicated towards immortalizing the game, host an in-game server, and occasionally run events with the small community still around today. The Hello Clan Discord has almost 2,000 people. The large majority of those are not active players. Over the course of a few weeks, I'd log on and check the few servers still running, and 70% of the time there would be nobody. I'd log on to a server like GMV Air was, where the focus is to dogfight, and occasionally after 30 minutes someone would join, and then a couple more would join. The most I ever saw was 7, about 3 weeks into playing the game. So this server actually has people. You can tell the people by the white RPG next to their name. That's, I believe, 7. Including myself. Oh, I killed him. Thank God. This guy in chat, Miro, is asking for other Vietnam era games because this one doesn't have enough players. It's kind of sad, but that's just how it goes. The GMV servers were great because I'd often join to see a few familiar names like Venom, for example. The first day that I logged on, I bumped into Venom and a few others. He's gonna do a flip. Oh! Venom introduced me to a few mechanics, and taught me a couple tricks. Every few days I'd see him hop on, and he'd ask me how I'm getting along. I think it was pretty rare to see a completely new player, especially one that wasn't there for a nostalgia trip. I've asked in chat how long these lot have actually played this game. Since it came out, off and on, and time says about 20 years. 21 years. For reference, that's about as old as I am. Not about, it is how old I am. Considering how experienced everyone online was, you learn pretty quickly how to keep up to an extent. These guys are so wholesome, man. Good fight after every fight, nice shots, just good people. Tight-knit communities are the best. They really are. I spent quite a few hours just chilling in a server with people I didn't know, having a shit ton of fun with the incredibly cool helicopter controls, and 1v1ing each other with my KD absolutely in the bin. But it wasn't about that. Oh my god, he's upside down. He's just done a flip while shooting the other fella. Who is that? Oh, it's my boy Cyber as well. I've got huge money on Cyber winning this. Go on, lad. Oh my days. I've never seen that one before. Alright, and then we get on the machine gun and we just rail the rest of them. There's one. Oh, is this a spawn point? Oh, that's interesting. How did I just die? I just died to a bot. That's so embarrassing. In total, there are 15 servers still running on Battlefield Vietnam, but usually only one of them has players at any one time. On the weekends, you can often find a few more people though, and thanks to Hello Clan's website, installing the game is genuinely really easy nowadays. The sense of community that this game has, considering just how obscure it is very cool. When I was snooping around the forums for Hello Clan, I discovered this thread from late 2024, a message from the daughter of Nagi Tanker, saying he passed and how important this community was to him. Every now and again in game, somebody would mention Nagi's name and how much they missed the guy, and I found a message suggesting they were going to add a permanent bot to the in-game server named after him. Out of everyone in the entire community, Nagi had the second most kills on the entire Hello Clan server, and was just a few hundred behind first place. To be honest, I found it pretty comforting to log on whenever I wanted and instantly recognize whoever was online. I can see why the veterans keep coming back decades on, and I doubt things will be any different in 10 years from now. If you're interested in a first-person perspective of the early Battlefield Vietnam days, you should watch Gravity BFTV's mini-documentary. It's a great insight into the competitive side and the rise and fall of Battlefield Vietnam. I was 1 when this game first released. The fact I now get to record a video on this game 20 years later, and it's still running, is beautiful. If you personally have any stories to tell from when Battlefield Vietnam was first released, and what it was like to be in the community back then, I'd love to hear them in the comments. The Xbox 360 indie marketplace gave birth to a shit ton of iconic games. Murder Miners, White Noise, Total Miner, CastleMiner Z, all undoubtedly bangers. They were the cornerstone of most childhoods if you grew up on an Xbox 360 like I did. I remember distinctly spending less than a few hours on a Minecraft-esque survival game called CastleMiner Z sometime in 2012 if I recall correctly. I joined a friend's world as they were playing, but found myself buried in a hole for the majority of the time hiding from some kind of fucking dragon, while my mates were nowhere to be found. The fascination of CastleMiner Z back then was massive. I watched a video at some point about the Lantern Lands, a bug that caused the terrain to suddenly become this massively infinite platform of lanterns, and that still happens today if you walk far enough. After little old me got spooked out of CMZ, I stuck with Minecraft once that eventually released onto the 360. But that memory of being stuck in a friend's world on CMZ never really left me. CMZ became the first Xbox Live indie game to sell 1 million units in late 2012, and would later reach over 2 million. Digital DNA, the developers, would later bring the game to Steam in 2013. With the Xbox 360 marketplace now shut down as of July 2024, CastleMiner's player base is largely PC. The game is pretty similar to how it was on the 360, but had changes introduced by the third-party company hired to originally bring the game to PC. Once the original hype of CMZ largely died down around 2014, I feel like most people simply forgot about it. I know I did. I got sucked up in school, then college, and my 360 had regretfully been sold ages ago. But throughout the years, there were a few that stuck around. In 2020, a guy called Soldier1 came into the CMZ Discord and told people about a fella with the gamertag, "The Madman is back." Soldier said this guy had a few worlds he showed him that he built with a friend called TLOZ. They were both from Germany, both were getting bachelor's degrees in college, and decided to spend 7 years on numerous CMZ worlds, including a massive city. Soldier was given a tour of the city, and the Madman is Back allowed him to download the world since the 360 engine could barely handle what had been built. He wanted the world to be preserved, and that's what Soldier did. With the help of a PC modder named Zombie Toad, they managed to convert the world to PC. Now, this world file has never really been passed around, and if I didn't already randomly bump into the dude that had these files, I probably would have never got them. While talking to a player named Proto about old CastleMiner Z worlds, he mentioned that he had these files somewhere, and by the next day, he had sent them to me. Since these had never been tested before on someone else's account, they didn't even work at first. But after some tweaking, Proto sent me new versions of the files, and just like that, I now had access to some of the most iconic CastleMiner Z worlds that had never really seen the light of day. We're in. Wow. I still can't fathom what's going on here. It is absolutely massive. This is the palace. It's kind of cool how obviously this game is incredibly limited block-wise. You don't even have stairs. It's the complete opposite to a game like Sauerbraten, for example. Ah, they've written out TLOZ here. Didn't quite finish the S by the looks of things. There you go, you can see the chunk in the S has corrupted. AKA the world was getting too big and the save file couldn't really handle it. And as a result, TLOZ has kind of been ripped apart there. But it's okay. What made this city all the more fascinating is how it goes against what most of CastleMiner Z is about. It's a pretty nomadic game by nature. The entire goal is to run away from spawn, but these fellas got tired of that. A little fountain? A frozen fountain by the looks of things. It doesn't look like it's quite finished, although I can't really tell what it's meant to be. Holy shit, I take it back. Okay. This reminds me so much of the little Minecraft Pocket Edition stadium I built. I was probably about 8 years old, and it felt just like this. It felt massive, and this reminds me so much of it. I wish I could get the chance to talk to the guys, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I see the vision. I really see the vision. It's like a proper castle we just kind of walked through. And this is a massive bridge that leads to another kind of tower. Apart from the stadium, the cathedral was probably the biggest build. Likely took weeks or even months to construct some of this stuff, especially considering it was apparently just the two of them. I feel like I'm going in a loop. I have no idea if I've been here before. Oh, it's a fireplace. That is so cute, man. Oh, this is the storage system, and as you can see, they had quite a lot of stuff. Ah, there we go, a used diamond spade. That was used in the creation of this world. It's kind of cool. Wait, I might hold it. This kind of feels like the most valuable spade in CastleMiner Z. Once I got down underground and fell into hell, where they had an entire path and numerous towers set up, I realized just how deep this world goes. I can't even imagine building one of these creations, and then still getting the motivation to do another one, and then the roads and the bridges, and then the subway, and then you go down to hell and there's even more roads and more buildings. I feel so honored to be able to explore this, because I know I'm one of the first people to really get their hands on this world. The technicalities around getting CastleMiner Z 360 worlds to PCs, it's not easy. Not many people know how to do it. This is like the elite CastleMiner Z interior. Keeping a tree, building around it. I wouldn't even be able to say if I've seen everything. I honestly have no idea. This is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So I feel so privileged to be able to see this and explore someone's childhood, essentially. I love it. I love it so much. In late January, I discovered this video on YouTube by Ren Hernef, uploaded in 2012. It showcases an early build of Utwas World on the Xbox 360, and in the description lists a bunch of people I had no idea even contributed to the world, going against the thought that there may have only been 2. I'm assuming the Madman is Back is actually one of those named in the description, but likely went by a different name at the time. According to Soldier in 2020, Madman has long moved on from CastleMiner Z and has a wife and kids now. As for Utwas, I have no idea where they are. They've likely also found other things in life, but the fact these worlds can now be immortalized forever after the hundreds of hours poured into them is important to me. Alongside this city, I also got to explore a few other early 360 worlds, where I found numerous relics the players had left behind. Created by It's Mackie 72 Moonbase. So this world is earlier than 2013 for sure. I adore seeing people's tools and how much they've used them. It's like, that's what they've left behind, knowing they'll probably never play this world again. Proto also sent me some of his old childhood worlds, a wooden city he had attempted, and a hotel he had built as a kid. Pretty simple builds, but the fact he still has these files to look back on whenever he wants is too cool. I know I'd do anything to get my hands on some of my old Minecraft worlds when life was a lot different. Earlier I mentioned CMZ's slow decline after 2014. Throughout that silence, the developers were working on a new title. Proto and a few others from the CMZ Discord joined a call with me to tell me a little bit about the chaos that unfolded in the CMZ community around 2018 as a result of this new title.
The staff left the original server, and it got taken over by trolls and gore posters. The unofficial server got created by Quincy. Bartley and I joined at around the same time. We weren't really sure what direction to go, considering like Tom was pretty much MIA. I mean, Thomas Stone, he completely disappeared for quite some time because it was hard on like the whole company and it was hard on him. So he was trying to like find a new avenue because he got into indie games and it kind of like Death Toll it seems like it was probably a mistake.
Digital DNA had released a slightly more fleshed out survival shooter called Death Toll. It wasn't necessarily poorly received, but the money received made up just a fraction of what was invested, leading to numerous Digital DNA developers parting ways.
I don't think I've talked to Bartley in maybe a year. I don't know how long it's been.
I don't hear everyone's voices very often.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, you go through like phases of it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of us, like, I know I went, you know, I graduated high school and went to college, and kind of I started expanding my business, and you know, you don't have as much time to come back and mod. So I think that's why the modding scene has kind of went down, especially in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of mods being released because, you know what, everyone kind of got older and had things to do. And
everyone in this call helped shape the new CastleMiner Z Discord in some way, and were a huge reason as to why this community still exists. We spoke for a couple hours about CMZ, the 360 days, and largely the modding community. Over the years, due to CMZ's complete lack of security, mods have been created to fight hackers, protect random players, and also fix bugs. A lot of the guys in this call were responsible for those mods, but what this community really yearned for ever since 2018 was a remake.
I think around, what was it, 2020 or 2021? Like, there was a time where we were so desperate to, like, hear something from Tom, because, like, stuff was happening with Cryptic Knight, and, like, the games community was just sort of, we were kind of carrying the community for quite some time. It's, like, we would eagerly watch Tom's Twitter, the Digital DNA Games Twitter account, just waiting for a tweet, waiting for something, you know?
So what was it like the day that he came back?
More messages in 36 hours than the past 36 months.
Like, yeah, he just started talking one day, and we were all like, holy shit, what's up? And he just started saying, like, I'm trying to think.
And then he
like,
stayed.
Yeah, the first thing he posted was, I'm pretty sure October 29th of last year, he posted an image of him. He had the whole world generated in Unity, and it was just a screenshot of Unity, and like we saw that and everyone blew up. We were like, holy crap.
Soon after Thomas Stone from Digital DNA had returned to the now community Discord, he announced CastleMiner Z 2, and today streams multiple times a week on their YouTube channel showcasing the progress. Okay, on that topic then, what's your opinion on the remake? I need to hear, like, what you think.
I'm very excited for it. I think, like, when I was thinking about it, a lot of my friends who are outside of the CMZ server, I'll tell them, like, hey, like, you know, this game's being remade, and my friend will kind of give me shit for it, like, why are all the textures just real-life images? Like, who's gonna like this? And I'm like, us 3,000 people are going to like this. Like, you know, like, you know, maybe it may not be something for like everyone, right? It doesn't even have to be a perfect game. We just are all going to enjoy whatever Thomas Stone is going to make and his team.
Thomas, no, but I will basically pay any price for the remake.
Same.
This was my favorite game when I was a kid, so it's nice to see a game developer coming back to it, not just abandoning it. And I think he could actually do really well if he operates this whole reboot right.
The biggest thing too is please be at least some sort of anti-cheat. That is the only thing I'm really big on. If Thomas Stone is listening to this right now, like, please something. It doesn't even have to be super big, just something, you know, like it, you know, freaking GTA Online finally added something, you know. I think CastleMiner Z too, in my humble opinion.
Do you think the community would have died out without, you know, not to toot your own horns, but do you think it would have just collapsed if you didn't make that Discord? And
I'm not sure if it would have happened.
Well, the remake happening is probably, I sound like such an egomaniac, but like probably partly because of us keeping it alive a little bit. I don't think this game would have fully died out, because I'm actually kind of surprised. Like, even to this day, like, you check the stats in the server right now, there's 23 people playing in this game.
A lot of them who are playing, even Bryce till now, have no idea that there's a community
exactly.
When I was inviting people in the influx, like in the hundreds, through that branding on the official page or on the server list, it was crazy how many would join, and they'd be like, I didn't even know there was a community for this, because it wasn't, back then we weren't on Discord Discovery. You couldn't just search up CastleMiner Discord.
With a remake on the horizon, things have never been more positive in the CMZ community. Every day, people are remembering that this game still exists, and now I hope some of you have too. It shaped millions of childhoods, and if CMZ 2 can capture that same magic, people would flood back, even if just for the memories. I owe a massive thanks to all the CMZ guys, and Proto especially, for giving me the honor of exploring those worlds. I hope that one day the Madman is back, or TLOZ can return, so we can release these worlds to the public, because that city deserves to be explored by more than just me. Remember, download War Thunder today for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile using my link in the pinned comment or the video description. And of course, new and returning players that haven't played for at least 6 months can also get a massive limited time bonus pack, including multiple premium vehicles and an exclusive vehicle decorator. If you want to learn more about any of these communities, the Zawa, CastleMiner Z, and Hello Clan Discords will all be linked below, where there are a bunch of helpful veterans that would love to see some new faces. If there's a childhood game you want me to explore, send it to me on Twitter or join my Discord and suggest it in there. This video took far too long, but getting to talk to the people that I did made it massively worth it. Subscribe.